Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome to the review show where we have a look back at everything that happened over the weekend in boxing. This weekend, of course, that's Jai Opetaia's knockout victory over Sin Cara and Matchroom's Monte Carlo card. Lots of great stuff to get our teeth into. Straight into the action. Jai Opetaia, maybe not quite the performance we expected, but certainly the result. What do we make of it?
Well, I literally only caught the knockout, so I've only seen the best bit of the fight. But yeah, I think we keep coming around to the same thing with Opetaia. He's just so good within that cruiserweight division. It doesn't feel like there's many tests there for him at cruiserweight, and the tests that are there can't seem to get a fight together. So I think it's just sort of playing that patient waiting game until he gets a much bigger fight that I think he deserves at this point more than anything else. Hopefully we see it early in 2026, but it's another very impressive stoppage to add to the list of all. It feels like he's had a few really strong knockout finishes over his last few fights, but yeah, very impressive again. That's all I can say, really.
I think with Jai Opetaia as well, when he's at this sort of level, there's only one outcome in his fights, and that's getting a finish. And whenever he seems to make that step up, then he steps up his game and has to be a little bit more, switched on. And listen, Saturday night was a little bit disappointing that us UK fans had to watch on UFC Fight Pass. Out of all the places to watch boxing, I wasn't expecting to watch it on the UFC channel, but there we go. That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes, ain't it? But no, it was a great performance. But of course, his opponent as well. Hopefully, he's well. I think I read somewhere that he was in hospital after the fight. So, best wishes to him. But for Jai Opetaia, like Ben touched upon, and we talked a lot last week about it, he seems to be in this position now in the cruiserweight division where he hasn't got any. How can I put this? He hasn't got any competition. Because Zurdo Ramirez is busy potentially going off and fighting David Benavidez. Jai Opetaia's in a spot now where if he fights anyone that's close to him, he beats them easily, I think. And I don't think there's any challenges out there for him.
Yeah, it's a weird one because obviously, like we mentioned it quite, and obviously Badu Jack's defending the WBC this weekend. At the WBC convention, they've announced the sort of managed for the interim. So
how he is world champion, I do not know.
Yeah, but Jai Opetaia is certainly nowhere near a fight for the WBC title. The WBO and WBA Zurdo Ramirez or David Benavidez has been cleared to hold his WBC lightweight championship and still challenge for the cruiserweight titles with Zurdo Ramirez. So really, his route to a world title, other than the two that he's got, is practically non-existent, which is frustrating to say the least. I think, for me, the weird thing about Jai Opetaia is, and it's been the same in, trying to remember the fight, I think it might have been the Zorro fight, possibly. There was a fight
in Riyadh
I watched, and you think the performance isn't that impressive. He's getting caught a little bit, and I think this weekend was the same. He got caught a little bit too often. But then when you get an emphatic finish like that to kind of cap it off, you kind of forget, or you kind of go, oh, well, everything else that's happened didn't really matter because, again, he's got an emphatic knockout. So it's a weird one where I don't think he looks hugely impressive for the round he's in there, but then he just blasts them out of there, so it doesn't matter. And for as long as he keeps doing that, it's not a problem.
Who was it he had the two fights against?
Bradis.
So it was the second Bradis fight. He didn't look
great, no. And other than the two Bradis fights, he hasn't gone the distance since 2019.
But didn't you talk about when that card came around that you were watching it with someone and you said, oh, Jai Opetaia, he's very special, and it seemed like a very underwhelming.
It was my girlfriend's dad.
Yeah.
I said, Jai Opetaia, dog's bollocks, pay attention, watch this. And I looked daft. And again, he didn't look that impressive that night because the knockout didn't come. David Naika, until the knockout, he didn't look anything. He never looks that far ahead of his opponents, but he always finds that shot. And if no man other than Maris Bradis, who I think is a bit of a freak in his own right,
100%
goes the distance with you since 2019.
Broke his jaw as well, by the way.
You're doing something right. He broke his jaw in both fights, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I don't know. He's a weird one. But
do you think there's any difficulty with him, though, that because, well, we sit here pretty much every fight that comes up and say he's so far above this level, do you think there's an issue with him where he's struggling to get himself up for the competition? Where is it? Not obviously he's going to take them seriously, but do you think there's a sort of switch in his mind where this isn't where I want to be fighting. This isn't the level. And when we see him step up against someone in a unification fight where he knows he's in a bit more of a test, we'll see the best version of him.
Yeah, and I think as well, on top of that, he doesn't have to kind of bank rounds because he needs to, he's like, this is going to be tight on the cards. Just need to make sure I win rounds sort of thing. So he's able to kind of pick his moments and find shots like the one he did on well, it would have been Saturday, Sunday morning for us. Hugely impressive stoppage, like a beautiful shot. And the Zorro one, which I mentioned again, is just a stunning knockout. And they're always highlight reel KOs, one shot KOs. So, and to find that one shot, oftentimes you can get caught as you come in or as they come in, and it's timing it and finding the timing, and then bang, he lets go. So yeah, I think there is a degree of, in these fights, he hasn't got to worry about anything else. Kind of like when Bam Rodriguez won fairly recently, he was kind of able to play through the rounds in order to find that highlight reel stoppage. So I'm not saying that necessarily is what Jai Opetaia is doing, but he's always finding that highlight reel, and you're going to get caught in doing so.
But now, you look at, like I said about the Cruiserweight division, you talked about all the belts and all. Jai Opetaia beats Badou Jack easily, I think.
Yeah.
Zurdo Ramirez, I think he's going to be with Benavidez all through 2026. I think, well, they'll have one fight, then they'll have a rematch probably. Jai Opetaia, he's probably getting fed up. Let's be honest. Behind the scenes, he's probably sat down after Saturday night's performance and thinking, right, where's my next world title coming from? Where's my next tough fight coming from? And for me, I can't see it at Cruiserweight. Now, does that mean he has to potentially make that move up like we've seen with other fighters? Just to get competition. Listen, Jai Opetaia at heavyweight will be interesting. But
I think it's difficult to say, but realistically, I think we're seeing smaller heavyweights, I do think there's a world where he fits into that heavyweight picture, definitely.
But the power that he's got, easily,
exactly, yeah. If you're able to, a more sort of Moses Atoma type heavyweight, but then he hasn't got the movement and the skill set, I don't think, that Moses Atoma has. So I think he's in a really awkward spot. And I think without a Zurdo Ramirez fight, which, by the way, on paper, I think is a phenomenal fight, style-wise, I think that fight is perfect for both men. Zurdo Ramirez is thinking, this guy, I can outwork him, I can outpunch him, Jai Opetaia is going to be thinking, this guy's come up from middleweight, one shot on the chin, good night, I'm undisputed champion. So I don't know. I think it would be hard without that fight to get too excited about any fights coming up in the Cruiserweight division, I think, bar David Benavidez or Ramirez.
Surely he's asking the question as well, though, of, I waited long enough for a unification fight. How is Benavidez jumping the queue in front of me?
Well, it's because it's the rankings with the WBA and WBO. It's different conversations. I think realistically, the problem is if Jai Opetaia had won the WBC Cruiserweight title when he won his first world title, then he would have had those big fights by now. The problem is that it's twofold, is that the WBC have done nothing but protect Badou Jack for some unimaginable reason.
I wonder why.
The IBF are known for being sticklers for the rules. They're known for being constant with their mandatories, and he's played the game. He's kept the IBF happy. He's obviously held the Ring Magazine title as well. But when you look at the run, Maris Bradis, Jordan Thompson, Ellis Sorrow, Maris Bradis, Jack Massey, David Naika, Claudio Squillo, Hussein Sin it's not world title level fighters there. They're not. They're all world title challengers. They're not world champions, and that's no fault of his own. But he's had to play the game to keep his biggest bargaining chip in his hand. But equally, by having that bargaining chip, he's almost spending more time keeping it than he is making use of it.
Do you think now when Benavidez and Ramirez fight now, does he flies over to the States, gets ringside, and gets in the ring straight after and says, listen, I've waited for a challenge. I've had Bradis, which was two incredible fights. The first fight was one of the best fights I think I've seen, especially in Australia, and the rematch was pretty underwhelming. But if I'm Opetaia, I'm going out there now. You have to go out there and get in that ring. Stop shouting out your name. Get yourself known over in America, because, if that fight happened with Ramirez, Jai Opetaia, that's for him now. That's his mountaintop. That's all he's got left, I think, to achieve in the cruiserweight division is to defeat Zurdo Ramirez. There's no one, like I said earlier, no one can touch him. There's a massive gap between everyone else in the cruiserweight division, and that includes Badou Jack and those two names I've just said. There's a huge step up. There's a massive gap. And when you have that massive gap, you just have to have the two fighting each other. It's exactly the same with Beterbiev and Bivol. There's a huge gap between third and second, if you want to say. It's going to be interesting to see. But if I was Opetaia now, he had a good stoppage win, have another kind of warm-up, I don't know, find a mandatory somewhere, and then get over in May to America or Mexico, wherever they have it, or even Riyadh.
It's going to be in America.
And call them out.
Vegas.
Get in that ring and just get face-to-face with them. And
is there an argument, though, that the cruiserweight, commercially speaking, is a pretty woeful division at the moment? You know, Jai Opetaia, because of the time he saw the Ring Magazine, the Riyadh season cards, he's a reasonably well-known name. Zurdo Ramirez, again, fairly well-known here and there. But there's no one that you kind of look at that division and you go, he's the name, he's the man of that division. And so it's difficult.
it is.
I think there's two fights for him to make. Is whilst Benavidez and Ramirez are fighting for the WBA and what would it be? WBA and IBO, was it?
WBA and WBO.
Or WBO. Whilst them two fight for that, he hopefully gets a unification fight for whoever holds the WBC belt.
Badou Jack, and he's fighting this coming weekend, and they've already ordered their mandatory for the interim and a third fight for the mandatory. So they've already ordered their interim fight and a mandatory for the interim at the WBC convention. So realistically, 2026 for the cruiserweight WBC title is written off unless Badou Jack decides, if he wins this weekend, decides to take a voluntary defense against Jai Opetaia, which you're just not going to do. You're not, are you?
No.
Can you imagine that though? Jai Opetaia wins the WBC title by just being a mandatory. Because that could be the way forward. He could just go, all right,
but it's not going to happen next year because they've already outlined their whole plan.
I think that's where it comes to now with Jai Opetaia. Does he remain patient, or does he just go, right, I'm getting fed up now, I'm going to make a move, and makes that jump?
I think he's 30 years of age. He's 29-0. I think if there's no unification fight going to come, which it doesn't look like it will, if Zurdo Ramirez, they don't have a concrete plan to fight by the end of 2026, I think you count your chickens. You go, do you know what? Yeah, I'll have a fight at a catchweight, at bridgerweight, sort of 210, 215, and then I'll spend a year getting myself ready for the heavyweight division. I think that's commercially, that's the best way to go about 2026, because either way, you're not getting a fight of meaningful nature, regardless. I don't think, unless somebody stumps up some serious Saudi cash to make a bigger fight, which I can't see them doing at this point.
No.
Maybe heavyweight is the way to go for Opetaia.
Which is mad, because I think this time last year,
the first fight the heavyweight.
It will be a
down under.
What would be the first big fight?
Justice Hooney down under in Australia.
Great fight, yeah, it would be a good fight. That there is some great fights to be had for him. I think when you look at the likes of Richard Riakporhe, Lawrence Okoli, people who have moved up to heavyweight division, the level of fighter that they're fighting, Jai Opetaia will easily be in there with.
Yeah.
So I think, there's fights out there for him. But we'll have to wait and see.
Do we get on to the Monaco card now?
I was going to say,
the one
Monaco,
that we all enjoyed.
Monte Carlo, brilliant card, I thought, from top to bottom. Really enjoyable
Probably
fights.
The best card the Matchroom have put on this year.
Yeah.
I know recency bias might be an issue there, but I feel like I don't think there's many more Matchroom cards I've enjoyed more than this one.
Nah, anyone who's on YouTube or Spotify, let us know if you can think of one off the top of your head that's better. But off the top of mine, I can't think of one that
every
that
fight
it.
Delivered as well, I think.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Shabaz Masoud, Peter McGrail was a really close, skillful fight. Conah Walker, Pat McCormack was exciting, a brilliant finish at the end of it. Turhan looked unbelievable against Beatrice Ferreira. Sean McComb looked very, very good. And then Johnny Fisher made hard work of, and what was, in the end, a very exciting few rounds in that fight. We'll obviously get onto all of it in a sec. The first one, obviously, Shabaz Masoud, Peter McGrail. On paper, we said it was a really good fight. And I think
Yeah.
I think realistically it lived up to it for the EBU European now for Shabaz Masoud to add to his IBO world.
I'm very disappointed that I missed last week because I would have done very well on the predictions, but
That's what they all say. That's what they all
That's
say.
all he thinks about, see.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
he
interested
didn't
to-
get up early enough for his train to get back for the podcast.
Yeah.
But then he's going on about, if you woke up an extra like an hour earlier.
Yeah.
I still would have had to get on the first train back.
See, I think there's other ways. You need to think
If you
outside
really
the
wanted
box.
to get back, you would have done. But
Yeah,
either way, I think
trained it or drove.
Shabaz Masoud looked very, very good against Peter
He
McGrail.
did, didn't he? And the thing I found about this main event was when they announced it, as much as the card was, I was so excited for this card. I just looked at it and I just went, just imagine if that was in, Liverpool, Stoke. Just imagine if that fight was a main event in the UK. Couple thousand people.
But I do actually think, as all the fights go, location-wise, it made a lot of sense. None of them are huge ticket sellers in the UK
True.
with huge geographical pull, and so I think it makes a
But
lot
I
of
think
sense.
there was you can make the argument there was 3 main events on that card, potentially 4 if you include Sean McComb
Cool
fighting
card was
over.
the main event.
Well, literally, but that main event. Let's go to that. Shabaz Masoud for me started slowly, and I was like, "Oh, my prediction." We'll talk about predictions. I'll talk about mine. I thought, "Oh, Peter McGrail started strong, yeah, happy days, here we go." And then all of a sudden, Shabaz Masoud out of nowhere just comes back into the fight, and you get to like rounds 10 and 11, and I think I noted it down. There was Masoud was playing the game very well as the fight went on, especially in the last couple of rounds with headshots, behind the headshots. And he was playing to the referee, and the referee was on his side. He got the referee on side, like you have to do in any sort of sport. And Pete McGrail had that to his detriment, really. And he had a point deduction, which I thought was harsh. And then I think it was round 11 or 12 where, was it? I think Masoud got hurt, or McGrail got hurt, and he was out on his feet. And then the next round, all of a sudden, McGrail comes back. And listen, it was a great watch. I just wish I noted down what round it was now because I can't remember. But was it the 9th where? So, like I said, it was so close. And
It's always the 9th round.
It's always the 9th round. If you're unsure, guess it's the 9th
Yeah.
because it probably is.
okay, then I'll be like the chase. I'll go for the middle.
Yeah, but no, I think it was a great fight. Shabaz Masoud, I think twice now has put in a performance that people maybe didn't expect from him.
Oh, no one had him winning against Liam Davis, did they?
Is there any great fights out there for him other than the big man at the top, realistically?
Well, no. In a way, he's the one to chase now, but whether he gets that is a completely
Are you going
different
to
issue, but-
shout out someone, yeah?
I'm not going to shout at anyone. I've got a criticism
Go on.
of Mr. Eddie Hearn. Normally great talker,
Yeah.
all of this, but he's been stealing his lines recently because he's clearly watched us on how old was that clip?
We called Shabaz Masoud against, in a way, about
In Stoke.
it was when he beat
Liam Davis, yeah.
Yeah, so it was about a year ago, and I spent a good hour editing Nayo Inoue into a Stoke shirt with a Stoke bucket hat, a Ryan Shawcross poster in the background, and Eddie's seen that and gone, I like the look of that, and I'm all for environmental friendliness, but there's no need to recycle jokes as well.
No,
Come on,
exactly.
Expect better
Make
from
your
me,
own.
really.
But no, listen, that's a great fight. But for me, because of how good Saturday night was, run it back in the UK in front of a couple thousand people, and I don't know, in the NEC in Birmingham, Liverpool, even it's worth watching again because I didn't personally score it on the night. I knew it was close going into the latter rounds, and you can make the argument for both of them.
I was going to ask about the scoring because I thought Shabaz Masoud dominated
I was going to say, I think
a
it'd
lot
been
of
harsh
the middle
on,
part.
it would be
I
harsh
added
on
115,
Masoud to lose it.
111 due to the
The points deduction.
point taken off.
Do you think that was harsh, those point deductions? And
I think
do you think he played the ref
I
quite
think
well?
they'd had enough warnings that they were kind of both on their last warning at one point. If any one fighter in a fight like that where they both had warnings gets a points deduction, it always feels harsh, but it's the game. If they say don't do that again, you do it again.
How many times have we seen a referee say that? And just,
You give the ref an opportunity to take the point away. And I actually don't think it would have made a difference. I do think Shabaz Masoud won that fight, albeit it was close. I think he won that fight anyway, so I don't have a problem with
run it back.
with that. Yeah,
Run
I'm
it
not mad
back.
at it. I'm not mad at it. Conah Walker, Pat McCormack, good fight.
I
Really good fight. I'll let you take over because you obviously missed the preview. Conah Walker.
there's a reason why he's one of my favourite fighters in the UK. And if I was here for the prediction last week, I would have gone Conah Walker. But yeah, he just seems to always pull it out of the bag. Him and Fabio Wardley, I think, go hand in hand.
They've both got that clutch gene.
Brilliant fight. Really good fight to watch. And yeah, that stoppage right to the end. I just felt like McCormack almost played into his hands too much. He sort of sat in the pocket with him too much. And I really thought that McCormack was going to try and keep him at this. I know it's difficult to keep someone like Walker at distance when he just constantly wants to sit on your chest, and that's exactly the game plan he's going to have. But I just thought, that's what he's going to bring to you. So why are you allowing yourself to sit in the pocket so much, sit in the corner so much, and almost take punishment? And even when he was throwing back, Walker was just walking through the shot. So I feel like he could have done a better job of maintaining that distance and being a bit smarter with his work of just get those quick combinations off, spin and get out of there. There wasn't the need, I don't think, to stand and trade with someone who, makes his money off literally trading, and that's what gets him through fights. But yeah, I don't think any of us would have been sat here saying that Walker could possibly be looking at a world title shot in 2026, but after a run of really impressive performances, that looks like what he's got set up now.
I think when you look back as well, when they announced this fight, you're like, oh wow, okay, this is a weird and risky step up sort of fight. I know you say that it's not really.
You said this in the chat, and I do disagree.
I feel like it was one that.
Do you think he was timed right? Do you think they had the right opponent at the right time?
It's difficult, but it's one like when you look at him as a Olympian and all, like, I know we probably put too much sort of pressure on Olympic fighters at points, but with how good he done as an amateur, obviously turned over quite late the pros, so it's like there comes a time where you've got to take these sort of challenges, and if you're gonna do anything, you've got to rise above that challenge, and I feel like he didn't deal with it as good as what I thought he would have.
But I feel like with that step up, he knew how big it was, but he'll take so much away from it. I feel like now Pat McCormack stock has risen because Conah Walker, let's not forget, when he fought Lewis Crocker, a lot of people had him winning that fight.
Yeah, it was really close.
Look at where Lewis Crocker is now. He's a world champion. Run that back straight away. That's what I'll be saying. But for Conah Walker, you know what you get with him. He's just going to continuously press you and put you under pressure, take you to deep waters. And he took Pat McCormack to deep waters, and then it was actually inevitable what was going to happen. You knew what you were watching. You were just watching Conah Walker waiting for that perfect moment of where he was going to land a shot. And the shot he landed, fair play to him. He sent Pat McCormack out the ring. There's something there that I never knew in boxing, and I can't believe I didn't know this rule of they get 20 seconds if they're knocked outside the ring, which I couldn't believe because they were saying that the referee waved the fight off after 10 seconds, and I thought, why are they complaining about that? But then obviously you hear what, I think it was Ben Davidson, what he said after the fight, and fair enough, but there was no way you could have counted to 60 and he would still be fumbling on the floor.
Or as soon as you let that fight go again, the same
exactly.
result is
What's
happening,
the point?
But worse.
What's the point? You know what's coming. So listen, Conah Walker, great fighter, and I think when you look back on some of the fights he's had, Harry Scarf is the one that comes out the most. It's quite similarities in that fight as well on Saturday night. But listen, great person. I've never met the bloke, but I just imagine him to be very like one of the boys, in his local area. He said that every person in the crowd he can call their names and all, which is great to see. I just feel like with Conah Walker, when he makes that step up, he can't keep fighting the way he fights, if you get what I mean. He needs to find a way of, when he makes that, well, if he fights Lewis Crocker next, which hopefully he does, he needs to, because you can trade with Lewis Crocker. He's shown that you can, but I think there needs to be another way of looking at it. And we haven't even touched upon as well Nigel Travis at the end.
Yeah,
I don't know if you boys saw it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was good. To touch on both of those, first and foremost, I think Pat McCormack absolutely wanted to box on the outside against Conah Walker. I think it just took too much out of him to do so. And when you get tired, you start holding your feet. And the only way then to stay in the fight is is to stop and trade, and it seems suicide, but otherwise you are just going to, lose the fight. So I think he went out on his shield in that way, and I think that was Conah Walker. He looked knackered. Pat McCormack through sort of 7, 8, 9. He just looked really, really tired, really struggling to kind of keep him off him, which is why. And on, you said that that it was I think it wasn't a step too early for Pat McCormack. I think it's the right step. He's just fallen short. He's a 30-year-old former Olympian, 3 years since he's turned over. You look at his compatriots, Lauren Price, world champ, Galal Yafai, world champ, a number of the others, I can't think off the top of my head, that have jumped over, have stumbled already. He's had some injury issues, which is what's given him that extension. But if you're not beating fighters like Conah Walker, you're not going to win a world title. And if you're not able to do it by 9, 10 and 0, having been an Olympian, you're probably not.
But how many times have we seen a fighter make that first sort of big step up and fight a fighter that's in line for a world title next?
But why would you? You've got to do it at some point.
Exactly.
There's no point. At what point? They're not going to get better. They've held gloves. They've had gloves on their hands and they've punched people in the face since they were 6, 7, 8. This is their whole life. They're fit. They've got the best trainers. At some point, you got to roll the dice. And if you can't win, you're never gonna. You're almost delaying the inevitable by just giving them gimme fights or giving them Mexicans that may or may not fail.
Well, it was an Argentinian in Sunderland, his last one. Yeah.
All of these sorts of fights, eventually, either they're going to lose one of those and it'll look worse, or you're just kicking the stone further down the road until eventually they're going to get stopped by their first step up. So I think I really like how Matchroom treat their prospects, and some people will call it cutthroat, but I'd rather watch them lose than play a waiting game, waiting for them knowing that they're going to lose. Right. But also, I think
listen, like I said, his stock rises though, because I think he belongs at that level.
I don't think it rises. I think he just finds his level.
I think he's found his level, and I think he quite possibly will fight for a British title or similar before the end of his career. But I can't see him going much past that, because realistically, and I'm like we've said, we love Conah Walker, and as a fighter, I love him. He's everything British boxing stands for, but Lewis Crocker is very fortunate to have a world title around his waist. And Conah Walker is very fortunate to come through the run he has come through since that Lewis Crocker fight without a loss. Harry Scarf switched off against Conah Walker and gave him an opportunity to beat him that he probably shouldn't have had. So I think you frame it like Conah Walker's a world level fighter, and he's a fighter that may well fight for a world title soon, but I think he's done immensely well to get there, and perhaps Lewis Crocker is his best and only opportunity of ever winning a world title.
What's your thoughts on the fight as a whole as well? Because the commentary team, I was watching it, and I think the narrative they were trying to feed the audience was McCormack was in front.
Yes.
And I honestly felt that Conah Walker was up by a couple, and I'm thinking, what am I seeing that, what are they seeing that I ain't?
I watched it without commentary because...
why is that?
I was playing some board games with my girlfriend's family, Christmas celebrations and all that, but I was watching it on the side, and I wasn't really playing the game. I was mostly just watching the boxing, but I was sat at the table, and
you're playing Snap.
I was like, he's comfortably winning this fight. There was no... And it was only every once in a while where they chuck Tony Bellew's 13-0 round scorecard in that I went...
Or even...
okay. So I could have told you that DAZN had McCormack winning that fight, and I didn't even hear them say it.
Did they
just see it?
Happen to show the scorecards by the time of the stoppage?
I think they did release the stoppages, and
there was.
I want to say that Conah Walker was up on 1. He might have been up on 2 actually, and Pat McCormack was up on the other one.
Walker would have won that by decision, even if he didn't get a stoppage. Personally,
I agree,
but do you think there's a problem with the commentary team a little bit, where they're a little bit biased with...
I don't know, because how many times have we sat at home, watched a fight and scored it one way, or we have watched a fight live and then we've got home and someone has scored it different to us? I do think watching it on TV and being ringside plays a massive part.
I also think, and I think we're probably to a degree guilty of this as well, to an extent, and there'll be people in the comments that disagree with us on stuff.
Who's that guy from
There's
America?
not much of a... Hello. There's not much point in a commentary team having a little argument on broadcast about who they think is going to win. It's not much to that. And so what they'll do is they'll have to almost agree with each other to an extent, or go, oh, I see it slightly differently, but I can see where you're coming from. And what that builds is an idea of, over the course, you do that over 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, 5, 6, 7, and you start to build a picture that is slightly leaning one way. I actually think they should deter from making quite so much comment on the score as they do on the commentary. I would much prefer it if they
just bring up what the fans are seeing.
Talk about, just add the soundtrack to the fight. Don't worry too much about the conversation. By all means, cut over to Tony Bellew, Carl Frampton, people like that to discuss the scores in between rounds. But I think they focus too much on the score during the fight as the commentary team, perhaps, which is why it leads to that. But, I'm sure people say the same about us, because us three kind of generally are of a similar feeling. And it wouldn't be much of a show if we went, no, I think it's 114, 114. And you went, no, I think it's 115, 113. So those kind of things, I don't mind it. Just turn it off if you don't like it. That's what I do. If you're watching this podcast right now and you can't stand me, just mute.
Just mute whenever you start talking.
Yeah. I'll give you a little thumbs up when you start talking and you can keep playing.
Yeah,
but,
it is difficult though, and scoring in boxing is very subjective as well.
It is, yeah.
Even though us three, to be fair, I think tend to score quite similar. I don't think there's been many fights that we
disagreed on the scorecards. I don't think.
Not massively. I can't think of many.
What did you score Gav's fight against Cameron Vaughan? Because that was the one that
I give a 6-4 to Gav.
See, that was a similar to
No, I went with Bellew 13-0 to
13-0. Guys, I can't believe that I don't know how long we're into this episode and we haven't talked about one certain heavyweight.
Take it away.
Wow. I'm trying to think of the word to describe how I was feeling watching that, especially the first round, where I'm thinking, right, I'm excited to see Johnny Fisher now, the revitalised Johnny Fisher's career, the rebirth of him under Tony Sims. And then, what was it, at the end of round 1, I'm there watching it through my hands because I'm thinking, what are you doing? Nothing learned, nothing gained, I felt like, from that Dave Allen fight. I thought he was rather fortunate that the referee didn't make it a knockdown.
I think it was. It was
Johnny Fisher,
it was a knockdown.
Even
on his
him,
TikTok.
I was going to say he called it a knockdown himself.
Exactly.
So.
And
not that it mattered in the end, but
you could tell he used to play rugby because there was some great holding and all that, and great tactical low blow, especially in that second round. Fair play to him for that. But I just think when I watch that, I feel like Johnny Fisher, he's with Dave Allen, that knockout's taken a lot out of him. And listen, there was pressure on him on Saturday night, because if he lost that, going 0-2 in your last 2 fights, it's quite hard to come back from there, especially against someone who came in on such short notice. I was very disappointed because I was thinking new trainer, new Fisher, and it looked like he just went back to what he's done in almost all of his fights, and that's just be a little bit too quick, rushes his work, isn't patient, and he got caught.
I actually entirely disagree with
what you thought he was patient.
No, I think what they've tried to do, and I can see the logic in it, and I think over time it might pay dividends, because he is so raw, he's not the best boxer on the planet. No. I think he'll self-admit
he's
that.
a fighter.
They're trying to get him to box more. He was doing little L steps out of, and he was coming back out a distance in ways that he's never done before.
And he looked uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, and he looked uncomfortable doing it. And it what was in the end, he walked himself into a silly shot, got hurt, managed, and then he won the fight by rushing in and using what is his advantages. To break the record of the most Stoke City references in one boxing podcast, Tony Pulis's Stoke were very effective at doing what they did. Long grass, balls up to Peter Crouch, Charlie Adam making it dirty, this sort of thing. That's what Johnny Fisher needs to do. Every time he steps in the ring, he needs to make it a cold, rainy night in Stoke.
Well,
Don't try and make it a
he's a Romford United.
No? Yeah, you have really got to play to your strengths. I think when you're sort of, as not to come across as disrespectful, but be as one-dimensional as Johnny Fisher, he's got a big right hand that if it lands can hurt you, and sometimes that's all you need. And like, I know you don't want to over rely on it too much, but I suppose he's just at that level where that's his get out of jail free card to some extent. I think you can give him some credit in terms of the way he reacted from the bad start, because even though we all thought he would deal with the whole fight in itself a lot easier, like you said, there was still a lot of pressure going into it, considering he'd just come off a really bad knockout defeat and how he would cope with getting back in the ring. But to, gather somewhat composure and get yourself through that difficult moment to go on to win by stoppage, I think shows a little bit of character and a bit of growth in itself. Because I think you could have easily, after that bad start where essentially it was a knockdown, you could, and you're already under the pressure of possibly losing back to back, you could be looking at going, he could crumble completely here. And I know he did rush in slightly and that did help him in the end, but he could have rushed in the wrong way and got stopped. And then, like, where do you go from there at that point? Do you know what I mean?
If that did finish, if he had a nightmare and he got finished on Saturday night, would have that been the end of Johnny Fisher's boxing career?
Unless he wanted it to be, no, I don't think so. I don't think it would have been the end of it, but I certainly think it would have made it harder because he just has that great fan base, and that will take him anywhere he wants to be, as long as he can back it up in the ring. So no, I don't think so. I think for me, the perfect example of what Ben's just said there is Fabio Wardley. There's certainly double-digit people in the heavyweight division that on skill alone you would consider better than Fabio Wardley. The difference is Fabio Wardley knows what he's good at. He is happy to lose rounds against the Justice Huni, knowing he can set up that shot. And the other difference is Fabio Wardley's got a world title around his waist.
He's got
and double-digit other men don't.
But he can take a punch.
I was going to say, he's got a world champion chin as well, which I don't think Johnny Fisher got.
No, but I think...
I don't want this to come across as disrespectful to Johnny Fisher, because the pressure put on him is almost built because of the fan base he's got. He's been pushed into a position of headlining Matchroom cards because he's got such a good backing, but he's never claimed to be anything other than probably at most a British title fighter, which is still highly, highly impressive, especially a heavyweight.
Do you think he wins a British title?
I think he'll compete for one, possibly.
Yes.
Yeah?
I would say that much. I think it depends on them. I think it depends on who they're able to match him up with. I think there's plenty of people who are British titles, their ceiling, that will beat Johnny Fisher. I think there are others that wouldn't.
He needs to time it right, I feel like, where everyone's quite busy in Britain.
And style-wise.
Yeah.
You put him in against somebody like Jamie TKV, who I think would be comfortable taking the worst of what Johnny Fisher had. It's a long, long day for Johnny Fisher. I don't think he has the minerals.
Even against Fraser Clark.
Exactly. I don't think he has the minerals to do that. And I mean that in the most respect to TKV rather than in the disrespect to Johnny Fisher. But yeah, there's fights out there that you could make for an English or British title.
You look at the levels then as well. Like someone like Clark, who's an Olympian and hasn't even managed to get a British title yet. And you're talking about a possibility of Clark and
obliterated Dave Allen, who did the same to Johnny Fisher.
And Johnny Fisher, like, he picked up boxing quite late as well, like in terms of...
When at university he picked it up.
Yeah, so like to think that he could even get in the ring with a former Olympian and fight for a British title, that's an impressive feat on its own, I think.
Yeah.
What I was quite happy about as well, he didn't, at the end of the fight when Jamie Ward was in the interviews, he didn't go, we'll do the trilogy with Dave Allen at one day. I'm rather happy that he just called himself Romford United and then got out the ring, because I don't think he fights Dave Allen again.
No, I don't.
You don't put yourself in that position where you go and, well, he'd be B-side easily that night. But for Johnny Fisher, it's all about rebuilding. I think, for me, a great career for Johnny Fisher would be winning an English title. Yeah. I mean, it's a great title to win and all, and there'd be great matchups to come. But I feel like he needs a couple more fights like that on Saturday night with his new trainer, Tony Sims, potentially get him back over in America and all, get some more experience and have another go at the end of 2027 or 2026 and just see where you're at. Because I feel like with that Dave Allen fight, the first time around, as much as, listen, I'm talking like I'm not his biggest fan. Johnny Fisher's one of my favourite fighters. When that first fight came around, I honestly thought Dave Allen won that fight in Riyadh, like probably all of us did, quite by a distance as well. And then when that rematch came around, I think both of you boys just went, I don't think the timing's right. I think he was lucky in Riyadh and he got found out. And I think it's all about now just managing him now and not rushing. You know, he's a good ticket seller. You know he's going to get support wherever he goes. Keep on having these sort of fights where you're gonna win, but there's going to be drama. Obviously, you don't want that much drama of potentially getting knocked out, but you want those sort of fights where he can learn what he's learning, take what he's learning in the gym and put him under the lights, under the pressure of, you know, in that squared circle. And, you know, who knows, by this time next year, we could be talking about Johnny Fisher becoming an English champion. But I feel like he, in my opinion, I think he's miles off that. From what I saw on Saturday night.
You look at him, he's 26 years of age. Like we said, he is quite raw to the sport. So from that point of view, heavyweights don't start to kind of come into their own until at least their 30s. You look at people like Joseph Parker that get better with age. So I think realistically, what might be better for Johnny Fisher is to mature him physically, mature him as a fighter, mature him as a boxer, without putting too many miles on the clock. The difficulty of that is people will, with the fan base he's got and the hype he's got around him, start to get itchy for proper fights. And I think that is, to many degree, his greatest detriment, is that there's an expectation around him because of who he is rather than the fighter he is.
Do you think when he fought Alan Babbage, everyone thought, "Oh, okay, we're going to find out a lot about Johnny Fisher"?
I think that was a sort of like false hope on it.
Exactly.
Babbage fought
Bridgerweight, ain't he?
Yeah, he fought for Bridgerweight title, didn't he? Was it?
Yeah, and also just like,
so
he did just catch him with one good shot and then let his hands go fast. It wasn't a long fight.
No, you blink and you miss it.
Babbage has been stopped twice. Is it twice he's been stopped in the first round by like pretty simple straight down
Didn't
the pipe right hand?
He got stopped when he fought for the world title, wasn't he? Bridgerweight world title. I'm trying to think.
I can't remember, to be honest.
Who knows? But listen, he needs to develop more. I think that's the word for Johnny Fisher now.
I'd get him going into an English title probably for 2026 and then build him towards getting it, maybe competing for a British title the year after, like a slow build towards a British title, and have one big night where he's obviously going to have a big crowd. Get him a British title fight in what would probably be a 60-40 sort of fight, where if he can pull it off, what a feel-good moment for British boxing, a great moment for him to sort of
or goes out on a high
on a career, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Fight of the night?
We haven't even talked about it.
My favourite female fighter. I couldn't believe, I was listening back to the podcast last week, and I can't believe either of you thought this was a 50-50 fight.
I think on paper I
thought that fight, Turhan, what we're talking about, Turhan and Beatrice Ferreira, I thought that was the best fight you could make in boxing, not in female boxing, boxing.
She is a different level. Just in terms of her punch power is absolutely unbelievable.
Incredible, isn't it? You know, listen, some of you probably didn't watch it. Lakeside, the World Darts Championship, a Turkish girl won the girls' title at Lakeside on Sunday. And we got a Turkish world champion now in boxing as well. So it's flying at the moment. So
I think what's so great about her is she's very refreshing style wise. You know, there's a lot of great female talent out there. They're brilliant fighters, exciting talent. But there is a select few that have a style or a bit about them that makes you pay attention. And I think absolutely Turhan is one of those 100%. And will continue to be one of those because the power she poses. We've spoken about her on Tier 8 and another Matchroom prospect is because of the power she's got. She's exciting.
Yeah.
It's something that's missing in the women's division or the women's divisions. Yeah.
We got promoter Ben back here.
Why is that?
Oh, I'm just looking at there's two fights that would be absolutely amazing in our division for Turhan. One is Caroline Dubois, which would be obviously brilliant fight. But I don't know if either of you remember Bomi Ray Shin, who fought on that all-female card.
Who did she fight?
She lost that night to Dubois.
To Caroline Dubois, yeah.
But she impressed me massively that
She
night.
had some chin.
Yeah, she can take a punch, and I'd be interested to see whether, I don't know whether she could, but if she could walk through a few of those Turhan windmill right hands, that could be a very good fight to watch.
I think she shocked me as well, because I was expecting that to be 10 fantastic rounds of back and forth action. I didn't expect it to be
I thought it was
stoppage.
going to go exactly that way.
Really. You
After
can say
watching-
that,
I know,
mate,
I
after
know, I
being
know it's
stuck on a
easy.
train, you
I
know.
know it's easy
after
to
not
say.
leaving
I
early
really
enough.
wish I was here last week, because I would have said
Should have
she's
left
going to
earlier.
get the stoppage.
Should have left earlier.
Yeah, she did. She was really impressive. I did think Beatrice
It's
Ferreira
very,
is a good.
it's
a good
very
fighter, but-
aggressive style. I think that's why I like it so much. I just like those type of fighters that are just going to sit on your chest and just throw haymakers and try and look for that.
Is that your
stoppage,
style of
but-
fighting? Just
Well, yeah, I'd have about 30 seconds at that point.
I was going to say, I think there is a world though where if you can weather that storm a bit, and they you know, she's wild with the punches. If you can see them coming and get out the
yeah,
way
through
and,
time.
and manage it, then there is a world where you can ride,
100%,
and you
yeah.
can't do that for 10 rounds, even 10 twos. You know, you're going to lose that power towards, or will she? Is she the kind of fighter we'll see can keep that power as the fight goes on? Because if that's the case, then that's even more exciting, because you see fighters that have power rounds sort of 1 to 4, and then it's something different, or you see some people that still have that one shot knockout right the way till the end of the fight, and that's unbelievably exciting if that's the case. But I think there's some great nights out there for her.
I think it's the variation of her power punches as well. It's from both hands, because it was a big right hand to finish Saturday. But I know the fight, was it the fight before I fought Shona Brown? It was the left hook that caught her and slept her in, like.
that was early on the card as well. That fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, and early in the fight.
Yeah.
She has. I think it is just because she literally throws everything behind every punch. There's just 0 to 100 straight away. Like,
Yeah.
if it connects, you are in trouble.
Yeah. No, it's exciting stuff. To go back to it, fight of the night, have you got one off the top of your head?
Performance of the night.
Conah Walker for
Turhan.
me.
I think Conah Walker, and actually I think
fight
Conah
was
Walker's
brilliant.
performance of the night as well.
Really?
I think
Okay.
it was textbook. You know,
So-
if there was a
so
textbook
good to watch.
of Conah Walker,
For the drama,
for the
Johnny
drama-
Fisher Balaz, I thought
Do you
was fight of the
think?
night. Yeah.
Whatever fight he's in next, I want to try and get to it just to
What's this, Conah Walker?
Who, Balaz?
No,
No.
Walker.
Walker, just to tick him off on an interview.
Yeah.
Just to-
I think he'd be a brilliant interviewee as well.
No, I just think he's like I said, he's kind of everything that British boxing stands for. He's what we love about fighters. He is as British as it comes in terms
Yeah.
of boxing, and I think that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want. And I think there's so many good fights out there. I think a fight against someone like Jack Catterall for Jack Catterall could be a nightmare. We saw the way that Esserman was able to get to him at points during that fight, but obviously Catterall came out on top. Even Echo Esserman, Conah Walker would be.
I was thinking Echo Esserman, Pat McCormack. I was.
No, I think that's another nightmare fight for Pat McCormack style wise. But yeah, there's lots of great fights in that division. We were talking about it earlier. I think Crocker will go for the Catterall fight for the IBF defense, because I think commercially it makes the most sense, as opposed to winner of Para Donovan. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't see Walker, even though he's now got the Intercontinental with the IBF. I don't see him getting that Crocker fight, just because I think it's a nightmare for Crocker.
Windsor Park in the
It'd be
spring.
really good to
mind.
watch. So that for
Again,
a world
yeah.
title.
I think.
a better, more confident
crazy.
Conah Walker.
Do you reckon Conor Walker?
Yeah.
How much? If it was out of 100%, 50-50? Is it 60-40 Crocker?
Yeah.
Yeah, 60-40 Crocker.
Maybe 55-45.
I'd be inclined to go for Walker.
Oh, I know you would be, mate.
Punches chancy.
Yeah, you always
Again,
does have
something the Matchrooms
Yeah.
used on their promotion of their advent
Nothing
calendar
all
or
that
something. Yeah,
Yeah, we are just the inspiration.
we are.
are.
But we haven't got the paycheck yet. So
Unfortunately not. I think that just about wraps it up for another episode of the Puncher's Chance podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, we'll be back later in the week on Thursday to preview the upcoming fights. There's plenty of good fight. Another Matchroom card over in the States. We mentioned the WBC Cruiserweight fight, Badu Jack, and a WBA fight night with Gassiev and Pulev on the main event with
IBA.
Maxie Hughes fighting on there as well.
yeah.
Lots of great fights coming up. So if you like the sound of any of that, stick around, subscribe, or follow us on Spotify. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all later in the week.
Puncher's Chance. Puncher's Chance podcast.